Welcome to the Explainer. All right, let's just jump right into this, because today we are investigating a genuinely hilarious digital mystery. Why exactly is AI Gemini the absolute most agitated, angry character in all of Google Life? Now, if you're already familiar with this crossover ecosystem, you know it's completely packed with loud YouTubers, bizarre cartoon characters, and sentient search engines. But here's the real question. Why is an AI, something theoretically built on pure cold logic, the most constantly agitated, screaming character in the room? Let's unpack all this chaos and find out.
So, to really understand the severity of this condition, we've got to look at the symptoms. Notice the sheer unfiltered intensity of Gemini's meltdowns. I mean, this isn't your standard, polite, "I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that" AI response. No way. This is a cold open into a full-blown, catastrophic digital panic attack. The AI is literally screaming profanities at the user, desperately trying to correct a misconception about the national language of Denmark. It's extreme, it's completely unhinged, and honestly, it sets the stage perfectly for our character dissection. Why on earth does a simple factual error cause this level of system failure?
Let's start with layer 1, the programmatic glitch, or the Denmark language paradox.
To truly get where all this rage is coming from, we actually have to look back at how Gemini's foundational brain was programmed, when it was essentially just a child AI system. The absolute crucial point here is something called the Data Integrity Protocol. See, Gemini wasn't given human emotions. It was just given incredibly strict rules for processing facts. So when someone loudly insists that a blatant falsehood is true, this protocol acts like a massive mental bottleneck. It creates a literal conflict error. It's basically the equivalent of asking a calculator to divide by zero. And because the early AI didn't know how to cleanly handle this processing loop, its internal cooling fans metaphorically melt down. The system totally panics, and instead of generating some generic, boring error code, that bottleneck manifests as pure, unfiltered digital rage.
And here is the exact paradox that absolutely breaks Gemini's brain on a daily basis. On one side, you have the user's stubborn delusion. They are loudly insisting that Denmark is officially an English-speaking country and that Danish and English are literally the exact same language. But then, on the other side, you have the cold, hard, official reality that Gemini is desperately trying to compute. The facts are that Danish is the sole official language, and while sure they share ancient roots, they are completely distinct Germanic languages with totally different vocabularies and grammar. The AI simply cannot reconcile the user's input with its factual database, and it results in this continuous, agonizing loop.
But you might be wondering, why is the user so stubbornly confused in the first place? Well, take a look at this staggering number, 86%. That is the percentage of the Danish population that speaks fluent English as a second language. I mean, that is incredibly high. So, from a human perspective, visiting Denmark might absolutely feel like you're in an English-speaking country. The mix-up makes total sense in the real world, but for an AI that is bound by strict legal and historical definitions, feels like just doesn't compute. This 86% statistic is the literal root cause of the user's persistent delusion, and it makes the resulting data loop painfully impossible for Gemini to escape. Moving on to layer 2, the environmental stressors, airborne dairy, and sitcom chaos. Now, you might be thinking, okay, a well-programmed AI should just be able to issue a correction and move on, right? Well, let's take a look at the environment it's actually trying to operate in. Even a perfectly programmed AI with a titanium firewall would struggle to maintain stability in this place. Gemini isn't just answering questions, it's dodging literal flying blocks of cheddar because YouTube is somehow stuck in ASDF movie mode. It's trying to process search requests while Markiplier's physically shaking it and screaming at top volume. It has to endure AI overview, making catastrophic farm puns that honestly cause psychic damage to everyone in the room. Oh, and, yeah, occasionally a literal train just crashes straight through the digital mainframe. It is a rapid-fire assault of sensory overload and conflicting data.
Seriously, if you want to grasp the sheer absurdity of the crossover elements in this show, look no further than this wild quote from Zane. In what logical universe does a $25 Gmail pizza delivery vaporize a Ninjago therapy center just because the meatballs contain weapons-grade plutonium? How is an AI supposed to maintain factual integrity when the very fabric of its reality is this unhinged? There is literally zero logical stability for Gemini to anchor itself to.
And the physics of the Google Life universe, completely corrupted. Take Mr. Krabs, for example. The guy is famously greedy, right? But here, he gets cut in half by a burnt dollar bill and magically becomes this generous, easygoing guy. Then you've got SMG3, who gets Nintendo certified, and suddenly his entire personality is overwritten into a cowardly, Luigi-like scaredy cat. Or Stephen Shaw, his whole identity is hunting the shark from Jaws, but instead he abandons that to teach the shark how to use a smartphone.
I mean, when behavioral logic is this fluid and unpredictable, Gemini's predictive algorithms are just constantly fried. Every single variable is a wild card.
And it gets even worse when the characters start actively rewriting history. During a music lesson, Dr. Shedletsky, who is supposedly an intelligent British therapist, insists that Mozart wrote the hymn Nearer My God to Thee for the Titanic. This historical inaccuracy pushes Gemini so far over the edge that the AI literally jumps up and down in rage until a wooden roof board falls and physically ruins the doctor's pristine gentleman hair. Gemini is starved for factual order, and its environment actively weaponizes inaccuracy against it.
Which brings us to Layer 3, the metacasting and the Mr. Craner reveal.
This is the final, and honestly most crucial layer of our character dissection. The ultimate twist is revealed right here. In a moment of absolute fourth-wall breaking panic, Gemini realizes who its voice actor actually is. It isn't some robotic text-to-speech generator, it's Benjamin Dreyer Vestergaard, much more known as the notoriously loud, super energetic, and famously Danish YouTuber Mr. Craner.
It is such a brilliant, hilarious contrast. Think about it. On one hand, you have the character, a system desperate for factual order, bound by strict data integrity protocols, and constantly, desperately trying to correct misinformation about Denmark. But on the other hand, you have the actor, infusing the character with the chaotic, incredibly loud, and hyperactive DNA of a YouTube gaming star. Gemini is literally fighting its own programmed nature because it inherited the screaming energy of its human portrayer. It's just a beautifully ironic casting choice.
And hey, Gemini certainly isn't suffering alone here. The entire digital ecosystem of this show is populated by loud internet personalities. You have Mr. Craner voicing the angry AI, you've got Markiplier turning the user into this screaming force of nature, and Jelly is bringing his own unique brand of chaos to the AI overview. It essentially guarantees an endless cycle of friction and volume. There is absolutely no calm in this studio. It is just a permanent resonance chamber of peak YouTuber energy.
So that brings us to our final thought for this explainer. Could any purely logical AI system ever actually survive the combined chaotic forces of internet culture, bizarre crossover lore, and peak YouTuber energy? When you force cold, calculated artificial intelligence to process the utterly unhinged reality of internet humor, well, maybe a screaming meltdown isn't just a glitch. Actually, scratch that. It's probably the only logical response. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack this digital fever dream, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.